Howdy folks, thanks for tuning in for another Cruise of Smooth. Today, tonight, whatever you want to call it, I work night shift, so I never know what it actually is. Just got to run a couple late night errands. I got some payments from my side hustle I got to drop off. In the night drop, I'm not going to get a chance to later this week, and I'm attempting to beat the grocery store closing since they're no longer 24 hours. A couple things I tried to pick up yesterday, that all the misfortunate things happening in yesterday's video. I didn't get any of that picked up yesterday, so I'm trying to beat them to the closing. I don't know if I will, but we'll give it an effort. So, what is his? Okay, I just remembered the gentleman's name, Rayshard Brooks. Whenever an incident like George Floyd or anything tragic like that happens, I do try to wait to see what exactly comes out. You know, okay, you can read the headline, person killed by cop, and I don't care what the race is. I wouldn't care if George Floyd was Mexican, white, Asian, you name it, it's wrong. I don't care that George Floyd is black in the sense that it's wrong. It's just wrong, period. That cop was a sadist. He didn't seem to care. That was another day at the office for him as he was taking a man's life. Well, Rayshard Brooks, I've done my share of digging on that, just finding stuff out, and I've come to an opinion. Guy had kind of been in and out of jail a little bit, not pertinent to the situation. He was out on coronavirus bond, essentially. He had behaved well enough that he was eligible for that due to they didn't want all the inmates getting it. Report came in, there was a call at a Wendy's, someone was passed out in the drive-thru, cop shows up. I watched a good percentage of the body cam footage and the security footage from the Wendy's. Cop came up, was very polite and professional with Mr. Brooks. Backup showed up. Again, they were both being very polite and professional. They were, talking to him, figuring out what was going on, what he was doing. They had both come to the determination that this guy's intoxicated. They got him to submit to a breathalyzer test. He was over the legal limit to drive. He had driven himself there, passed out in a Wendy's drive-thru. Now, I am not condoning drunk driving at all. I do know that various states of alcohol intoxication produce different results in different people. You can even have two guys, same height, same body fat percentage, and they will metabolize the alcohol at different rates, and different rates of alcohol, or the same rates of alcohol, will affect the two nearly identical guys differently. Even at, like, say, 0.02, 0.04, you'll have some people that'll be pretty loosened up and wild at 0.04, and then you can have someone at 0.1 self, more or less, maybe a little sluggish, but, basically normal. I've known both types of people. I've known some people that can drink you under the table and keep going. I've known some people that, once they have that second drink, there's going to be an interesting story to follow. So, I'm not condoning drunk driving. I know that a buddy of mine used to be a military police officer. He said once you blow a .08 when it comes to military, it is on you to prove that you were not intoxicated. At .08, you're considered intoxicated, and if you were in full command of your faculties at .08, which most people aren't, even if you're not going to be memorable at .08, you're probably sluggish to react to things. But anyway, this guy said that once you blow over .08, it is on you to prove that you were not impaired to drive a vehicle. Not on the justice system to prove that you were intoxicated. Guy was over the legal limit, and it was at that point the cop attempted to arrest him. That's when everything went haywire. They had the 25 minute encounter with Mr. Brooks up to this point, and everything was cordial. They were talking, they were having a civil dialogue about why Mr. Brooks was passed out in the Wendy's drive-thru. Once they got a scientific confirmation as to how intoxicated he was, they go to arrest him. Mr. Brooks is out on parole. I'm not passing judgment. I know people that have been in and out. I know people that have gone in for stupid things, or shall we say crimes of ignorance. I've been ticketed for moving violations of ignorance. And so I'm not passing judgment on the guy. I don't know I know what his priors are. I don't know why they're there. So anyway, the cop goes to arrest him. He's over the legal limit. You go to jail. That's just kind of the law. At that point, Mr. Brooks goes to fight the cops. And apparently he was a bigger gentleman in a very good physical condition, because both of these cops got slammed pretty hard. He was throwing them around like it wasn't much. One cop went to the ground on his back. The other cop went down another way, but at one point, both of these cops were on the ground. And during one of those moments of grappling, Mr. Brooks did seize one of the officer's tasers. I don't know the name of the officer whose taser he got, but he got it. And he fired it once. I don't know if he missed. I believe he might have hit a non-center mass area. If I remember right, it hit the cop's shirt sleeve, went through his arm, and then exited. For those of you that may not know, tasers, 2 electrodes on a cord shoot out of it. They penetrate the flesh. They have hooks, kind of like a fish hook, so they will stick in. And you push a button on it, and it delivers an electrical shock. When hit in center mass, it will put most people on the ground begging for you to stop. I know people in law enforcement that carry tasers. Whenever you get certified for a taser, you do have to get tased. And that say that it's very painful, very incapacitating. I've also watched videos of it where law enforcement get tased, and typically even the biggest, meanest, baddest looking cops end up on the ground screaming. So they're not a joke. A few years back, I do not remember any names, there was actually a case where a cop was either improperly trained, not trained, or ignored his training on a taser, and due to the high amperage of the taser, tased a person until they had a cardiac event and died. So, in established Georgia case law, a taser is considered a deadly weapon. Well, the guy had already wrestled a taser from the cops. He shot the taser at one of the cops once, gave him a nick, essentially, and was running, and he spun around to shoot him again with the taser. Most tasers have a multiple shot cartridge. I think you can get 2 or 3 shots out of most of them. I'm not 100% on that. I know that there's a few different designs out there, and also I know that the cartridges on them, some of them can be removed and you can reload. So I'm not 100% up to speed, but I know you've got at least 2 shots. He tried to shoot again. As he was spinning around to shoot, one of the officers shot and killed Mr. Brooks. Now, I will say I found out today that one of the officer fired 3 shots, 2 of which impacted Mr. Brooks, resulting in his death. One of which impacted one of the cars that was in the Wendy's drive-through line. It hit lower in the car and in the front, from my understanding of it. I could be wrong on that, but a dangerous situation. And right now, the county attorney general is seeking felony murder in the case of the officer that discharged the weapon. Now, 2 things. First, felony murder isn't the type of charge you'd use for that. Okay? I have done some serious digging on this, and that's not the charge you would use for killing anybody like that. And here's why. Felony murder, specifically. Alright, if I was pick your felony crime, and I'm committing that crime. Okay, the analogy I've heard used, and I'm going to steal it, is a bank robbery. I am holding up a bank with a gun, and something goes wrong. You know, things just go sideways. Someone tries to be a hero. I get nervous. I jump. I squeeze the trigger. Pick what happens, but someone dies because I committed a bank robbery. Then the police show up and arrest me. Okay? I did not commit murder in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th degree. I committed felony murder because I killed someone while in the commission of a felony act. Okay? Murder in any degree is just the crime of killing somebody. With intent to, or with some intent or negligence to kill them. Different states have slightly different statutes on that. But that is just the act of killing somebody with no other crime attached. Okay? Well, unless you want to say that the cop was committing another felony by detaining Mr. Brooks, well, he didn't even detain him, he was questioning Mr. Brooks at the drive-thru, by responding to the call, by administering field sobriety tests, ultimately administering a breathalyzer test, attempting to place Mr. Brooks under arrest, grappling with Mr. Brooks, not starting it, but, grappling with Mr. Brooks, or attempting to stop a parolee who had stolen a deadly weapon, according to Georgia State case law. There's no... that case just... I'm not arguing whether or not he... in this moment, I'm not arguing whether he did or did not act improperly. I'm strictly arguing the felony murder charge. Based on the statute, that will get thrown out of court or found not guilty on just based on the statute. I heard an argument about the Trayvon Martin George Zimmerman trial, that the prosecutor likely, theoretically, overcharged, and if they would have brought him up on a lesser charge, they probably could have found him guilty on, in most states, murder 2 and murder 1 has some sort of an intent clause where I knew the actions that I was taking could result in this specific person's death, but I took them anyway, as well as some sort of a premeditation where I know this person, it's not a random act, or I'm deliberately planning to go out and kill a person with, motive, prepared weapons and whatever, okay? So most murder in the second and first degree, they carry intent and premeditation. So there was an argument that I heard that if George Zimmerman would have been charged on a lesser charge, he could have been found guilty of that due to the circumstances of the case, but the prosecutor potentially overcharged the case based on the evidence that he had available. So, based on the statutes of felony murder, the cop should not be found guilty of felony murder because there's no other felonies that he was committing at that time to tack felony murder onto. Now, as far as Mr. Brooks goes and the officer killing him, there have been calls from the family for justice to be served, but, and I get that, they're hurt, they're grieving, they've lost a loved one in an unexpected, tragic situation. But I don't care how nice a person you are, I don't care what your intentions are, you do not get to point anything considered a deadly weapon at a cop, or even a non-deadly weapon at a cop, and get off scot-free. If I pointed a can of pepper spray at a cop in a, like if I was in a physical altercation with a cop and I pointed pepper spray at him, I would expect to be shot. For the simple reason that pepper spray is fairly incapacitating from everyone I've talked to. And you could theoretically unholster the cop's weapon while he's writhing around struggling to see. And one of the arguments that I heard is that Mr. Brooks had already taken a weapon off the cop, so if the cop got tased and was laying on the ground, first off, he already threw 2 cops to the ground, so he gets one of them tased, lying on the ground, incapacitated. He's going to have an easier time with the second one, and wants to stop him from taking a gun off that cop and turning the cop's own gun on him. You had a unpredictable element, or what's to prevent him from using the taser to get someone out of their car and lead on a high-speed chase while he's drunk and kill somebody. There's 100 different ways that could pan out badly, with either serious injury or loss of life, with not knowing Mr. Brooks' motives. So I don't get people felony murder in the state of Georgia is a capital punishment in the state of Georgia. So the cop who had, by Georgia case law, a deadly weapon pointed at him, a deadly weapon discharged on him once, had already been in a fight with this guy and lost his weapon, is being charged with felony murder for his troubles. I don't see it. I don't. I'm sympathetic to the Brooks family. I'm deeply sorry for them in their time of grieving. I can't imagine what it would be like to have that happen. I really can't. You know, because there's the family member that you know and love that was acting the way Mr. Brooks acted, and he got killed for his troubles. But at what point the police, their job motto is to protect and serve. Okay. So, at what point do they get to protect themselves or other innocent people in the area? There was a line of cars in that drive-thru. Mr. Brooks could have been planning to go up to any one of them and demand the people get out at taser point. I don't know what his plans were. The cops don't know what his plans were. No one knows what his plans were. But he had already fought 2 cops and beat the crap out of both of them. So I'm not willing to ascribe to him the most innocent of motives or innocent of plans. I think that there's also a lot of dirt coming out on this. I think it's Cobb County. This Cobb County DA, and he's in some hot water with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, their highest investigative body and policing body, for money, bank fraud, and some other odd crimes. So I've heard it's possible that he could just be trying to win some election points, because he's also getting primaried this year. I don't know. That's just one of those things I've heard in passing. But I don't think that cops should be. We're getting to the point in some of these big cities with all the backlash against cops that essentially they're being, write tickets, go pick up people for this, that, and the other. But when someone pulls a deadly weapon on you, you just got to take it. Now, again, George Floyd, Officer Chauvin, 100% Chauvin should be prosecuted. Chauvin's co-workers that were with him should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I hope that the prosecutor isn't overcharging on the evidence. I hope that he gets convicted. That's it seems pretty blatant what he's doing. There was no necessity in him doing what he did to maintain control of the situation. So, Officer Chauvin, completely different case. I hope that he gets punished to the full extent of the law in Minnesota. But I think that as far as Mr. Brooks goes, I think that the officers went above and beyond the call of duty with him in that long dialogue that they had with him, and now they're getting thrown under the bus for their trouble. There was a interaction that I had with police a number of years ago. I think long story, but essentially a cop accused me of running, and when he flipped his lights on behind me, I was in park. But that interaction lasted nearly an hour, and they were not courteous with me. at all. They were convinced I was running, and I ended up having to do a breathalyzer and all the rest to get out of it, and the cop wrote me tickets for 2 moving violations. So I just think that, you know, as tragic as it is, I think as far as this case with Mr. Brooks, I think the cops had ran out of options based on the equipment they had. Anyway, I'm where I gotta be, folks. So I gotta jump out of here and try to run in real quick before they close. See y'all. Thanks for tuning in.